Hello, everybody. Welcome to a special edition of Below the 38th. I'm Andrew, and I'm joined today by Luke. There's just the two of us because Mike is still on a trip back home to the UK. So, Luke, what is the name of this special edition of the Below the 38 podcast?
So we're going to call this Off the Record because we've not planned anything, we've not got a script, we've not done any particular research. We're just here to talk to you as fans about our experiences this weekend at the football.
Yeah, there's no tables. There's no looking over all the matches, how they all went, who was sent off, who scored. We were both at a game yesterday. Both of these games kicked off at the same time, 4:30. Luke took the train. You might as well talk about that too, like the experience of taking a train down in Korea. He went to Gimcheon, one of the more out of the way destinations in KD football. I had a trip that was much closer to home. Also involved a train, nowhere near as interesting. But as at both 4:30 kickoffs, plenty of goals and an away win in one of the games. No goals in the second game of the two that we're going to talk about today, but a lot of discontent and disillusioned fans at the end of the match. So in case you're wondering, we're talking about Gimcheon Sangmu 0, Incheon United 3, and the Suwon Bluewings 0, Daegu FC 0. So you're the one who's feeling a bit better than I am today on this Sunday afternoon, a gorgeous Sunday afternoon here in Korea. Let's talk about Gimcheon 0, Incheon United 3 then. Later on, I'll ask you about just as the fan, the experience of being a fan, and it's always that great excitement of taking a train to go somewhere in Korea, but 3-0 away to Gimcheon. Gimcheon might already be relegated. They're already relegated, but they're far from the worst team in this league. That was a very impressive performance and result.
So yeah, Saturday morning, it was an early start. We had to be in Seoul for our 10:30 train down to Gimcheon, and the train took around 3 hours. We got off at the station, and there's not really much in Gimcheon. For those of you who don't live over here, it's a very small town, and when you're used to living in a big city, as most people do in Korea, it actually feels more authentically Korean. These kind of away days are my favourites. So we got off the train, went to find some food, and headed to the stadium. And the stadium itself is actually pretty nice. It's surrounded by mountains in the background. The stadium isn't too big, although there were only 2,000 people at the game yesterday, which again is a huge difference to the game Andrew's going to talk about. It was lovely, it was sunny. We didn't have any roof, so for a lot of people they were trying to hide in the shade, but for me and my friends we were making the most of it. Being from England, we don't see much of the sun. And yeah, Incheon managed to win 3-0. When we saw the team lineup, without Magosa, without Itae, a lot of fans were a little bit nervous. But it was a good performance. Gimcheon did well in spells, but Incheon controlled the game for the majority of it. There were 2 or 3 VAR decisions, which typically took 3 or 4 minutes to solve. But yeah, all of the VAR decisions actually went in Incheon's favour. I don't recall that happening very often. But at the game, we've talked about it, you're waiting for the result, you're waiting for the referee to look at the monitor, and it feels a lot longer in the stadium than perhaps it does on TV when you're able to see replays. But no, it was a good performance, and there were a few standout players for Incheon. Seo Min particularly, every week he's getting better and better. He's been a brilliant addition to the squad. Morgan Ferrier is now coming into his own, with Magosa out for a while. I think there's a lot of pressure on Ferrier to step up and fill Magosa's boots, which is a difficult task on the best of days. But he got another goal yesterday. His hold-up play is very good. He draws a lot of fouls because he's so big. And ultimately, yeah, it was a really good day out. You can see from the players at the end and from the fans, we've got 5 games in 2 weeks, which is very difficult. And it's something that the manager, Yoon Jong-wan, touched on in his post-match press conference, where he said this spell of 5 games is really difficult if you don't have a lot of squad depth. And there's another spell like this coming in July. And he mentioned that he would like to see the league not pack so many games into such a short space of time, particularly when the weather conditions aren't very helpful. So that's perhaps something we can talk about later. But yeah, it was a great day. The only issues we had yesterday was the fact that there are 2 train stations in Gimcheon, despite the town being very small. And we ended up at the wrong one with only 20 minutes to get across town to the other one to get our train. We made the train by about 90 seconds.
Oh, wow,
But yeah.
nice. Yeah, I'll ask you about the train in a second. Just before then, I think it's so fascinating. K-League won this season, and I remember, on our website and on our YouTube channel, there's an interview I did with Thomas, the Anyang defender, and he was saying, like you're basically alluding to before we came on air here, is that teams are just jumping from 9th to 3rd, or they're dropping from 4th to 10th in the course of one weekend. And he said Incheon are now into the top half of the table. But everything you've seen so far this season, I'm guessing that, especially with the 2 players out that you mentioned, the goalkeeper and Steph Magosa, Tahi and Magosa, where does the performance of that just come from? Because again, even though Gimcheon have been relegated, they're nowhere near one of the worst teams in this league. And they've been drawing so many matches. So where do you think Incheon were able to pull a performance like that out on the road against difficult opposition?
I mean, it's very strange because I don't think we necessarily played any different to how we have been playing. It's just yesterday things clicked. I've mentioned So Jae-min in the middle of the field. He was brilliant. I think every week he's in the top 5 regarding distance covered. In the league. It's top runner, or best runner they call it. And every week he's in the top 5 for how much ground he covers. But also Incheon Young, when he joined Incheon, I was a bit nervous about whether he was going to be playing very regularly, whether he would be starting. But he's proving to be a very useful addition as well. He's got that level of experience and that kind of the nous, we call it, where you know how to play and how to control the game and control the tempo and what to do in certain situations. And I think that experience, him and Lee Myung-ju together, is working really well. On top of that, Hwani Bitha at the back has been another incredible signing. He looks so calm and collected on the ball. And we mentioned last year our backline. Incheon's backline was pretty young. Having the likes of Kim Gon-hee and Park Kyung-sop at the back, you kind of need some experience alongside them. And I think Hwani Bitha, he can control the ball. He can find good passes. He doesn't get flustered when he's being closed down. He got his first goal yesterday, a towering header. He's been excellent at the back. So yeah, that's another element. I think things are starting to click. We've seen it in games where Incheon have won, and it's kind of been there. We've been the better team, but it's not been a good performance necessarily. But yesterday, everything worked. Everything worked. Everything that we tried came off. The passing and the moving through the middle of the field was excellent, and the defense was calm under pressure for the most part. But yeah, it was a good performance, and I think just generally, like, we're finding our rhythm. And in a league where there is no consistency at the minute, everybody wins one week and loses the next week. I think Incheon now have an opportunity this week. We've got Pohang at home and we've got Gwangju at home. It would be great to finish this run of fixtures with 9 points from this week, but we'll see how it goes.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you next. So it's Tuesday night, isn't that right? Against Pohang at home, short enough turnaround. You guys drew the first meeting of the season. You were there in the Steelyard for that. So on the back of that 3-0 win, pressure is on. Like, pressure's off, I guess, a little bit, as you're saying, especially with Gwangju coming up then after that. Like, that's 3 points. So the tally will still be decent, irrespective of how the Pohang game goes. But on the back of a good 3-0 win, I'd imagine the players, the staff, and the fans are expecting a performance of equal stature for when the Steelers visit Sangmu Arena on Tuesday.
Yeah, I mean, you would hope so. And I think Magosa will probably be out again. I don't know that we're going to rush him back with it being so close to the summer break anyway. But Pohang got a good result yesterday. They beat Daejeon 2-0. And they will fancy their chances against Incheon. We haven't been great at home. And we do concede a lot of goals. Yesterday's clean sheet was nice, but it wasn't. We had to work for it. Gimcheon made a lot of opportunities. They had a goal disallowed, and they had a penalty cancelled by VAR. So it could have been a different game under a different set of circumstances. And I think it would be silly to look past Pohang and concentrate on the Gwangju game and making sure we get points there. But yeah, Tuesday is going to be a good game. It's going to be a big test, and a draw would be great. A win would be beyond expectation, I think.
Lastly, we all know we've all done the trips before. I mean, I'm from Ireland, so public transport between cities, intercity transport, is a disaster, really. And it's not cheap, and it's not fast. It's not particularly reliable. Over here, incredible number of trains, fast, slow. They're all pretty cheap given the quality of the service. It's a great way to. It's, I said before, Gimcheon, you like those type of towns, but there's something so nice about taking a Korean train and going to a city far away in this country.
Yeah, and that's something that me and my friends who I go to games with have talked about, the idea of a train away day. Yeah. I mean, I came back from Pohang on the plane, and that's kind of a different kind of special. That feels a bit like I think that's a different level of perhaps unnecessary carbon footprint. But the train away days are fantastic, and it's what we grew up with in England. And we've already planned our next one down to Ulsan. We're just waiting for tickets for the train to go on sale. And yeah, it's good if you can get a group of lads together to go to the away games and book train tickets and make it a full day out. I mean, we were 14 hours from leaving home to getting back yesterday. It was something like 600 or 700 kilometers in total, which is not the longest we've done. But it does feel like something to look forward to when you're building up to it in the week, and then it's a good day out.
Indeed. Yeah, I love it. Nothing like a train. And even the Mugunghwa, not if you're going down as far as Changwon or Jinan, but even the Mugunghwa to Daejeon adds about an hour and a bit onto the journey, but only costs like 7,000 or 8,000 won for a ticket. It's old, it's slow, it's a bit smelly, but it's still fun. It's always a fun time out taking the train. Well, that's it for Off the Record. I don't think we need to talk about any other football this weekend.
Yes,
man. I got to tell you.
Okay.
I'm trying to avoid this being ranty because, well, sometimes ranty can be fun to listen to. It tends to spiral and go in directions you don't really want the conversation to go, and it's dragging the whole thing out. But I was so interested in the final whistle. This is Suwon Bluewings 0, Daegu FC 0, and the final whistle went, and I wasn't happy. And I was wondering, was it just going to be me, or is the usual thing where people just sort of applaud the team? Well done, you did your best, hard luck. But there were enough boos for it to be noticed. And then they had a couple of banners up behind the goals in the north end as well. And then when the players came over to bow in front of the fans, the boos grew a bit louder. Like, there was no way it was the majority, but it was a significant minority, if you know what I mean, of people who were booing. And I think it's now... the reason why I want to bring this up is because we've been talking about this on the show all season, and it has to be mentioned again. I think the players over-celebrated 1-0 wins at the beginning of the season against teams that either didn't exist before or brand new to K-League 2 and didn't even get promoted the way that we would associate promotion. They basically just applied for membership and they were allowed up. And I think they over-celebrated. And the performances then, I don't think are worse than the performances now. It's just that the caliber of opposition has increased. And I don't think it's right to sort of complain about how poor the performances are and the lack of goals. It's the same. It's what we've been seeing all season. But now the standard of opposition has just increased since then. And now they're finding it hard to score goals. But my take in the start of the season, and we've been consistent about this on the show all season, I think that when they were winning those games against Paju, Gimhae, and Yongin, they should have thanked the fans for coming and then got back down the tunnel like, we mean business. It's time to get promoted. But a lot of jumping around with sunglasses on and waving the umbrellas and stuff. And for given the opposition, I thought there was I'm not sure if it was necessarily classless, but given that you're the Bluewings and you have these 4 stars above your crest and you're playing against Paju, Gimhae, or Yongin, I think they should have toned that down dramatically. And now it looks really silly because they're in trouble. They're majorly in trouble now when the fight on for automatic promotion is going to be really strong this year. And they don't look like the best team in the league. They look far from the best team in the league.
Well, it's interesting because yesterday, before Suwon even kicked off, Seoul Leland were hammered down at Cheongnam-asan, which nobody would have seen coming, I don't think, because Seoul Leland, they have no consistency. They'll be brilliant one week and then awful the next. And it's consistency that gets you promoted. But Suwon's game yesterday, if they'd have managed to win, they would have moved on to 25 points. They would have been 6 points clear of Elan. They would have been even further clear of Suwon FC. And it's the top two that get promoted. But having drawn to Daegu, who concede goals for fun, but like Suwon weren't able to score, and it dampens everything. Bluewings are now 5 points, as it stands, are now 5 points behind Busan because Busan are currently winning in their game against Cheonan City. And you've got to expect that they'll go on and win that game as well. And so it's going to be 5 points on equal games, and then only 4 points between Eland and Bluewings. And so you've got, like last year, you have more of a battle for playoff places and for second, third and fourth than you do for the title as it stands. And it's definitely worth noting that like Bluewings have only scored 14 goals all season.
That's exactly what I was going to talk about. Yeah.
They've conceded 7, which is great, but you need to score goals to win games, and they're just not scoring. And they got hit late against Gimpo. They drew with, was it Cheongju they drew with? It's not good. And you would expect a lot more. They have a good team.
Yeah, you're right. Like it's not good. And like you said, the 7 goals conceded, like 5 of those came in games against teams at the top of the table, which then makes you really worry about the rest of the season because they conceded 2 against Busan at home. They were slaughtered in the second half against Suwon away. And whilst Daegu are also free scoring, they don't keep clean sheets ever, and to be unable to score. But like the interesting thing about that, of course, like there was a save in the second half by the Daegu goalkeeper, Han Tae-hee. It's one of the best saves I think I've ever seen live. Rice had a header at the back post. He saved it, but he sort of parried it upwards, so it's going into the net. He's basically sort of deflected into the net, and he still managed to get his left hand up and scoop it out. And we all thought it had crossed the line. It was an unbelievable save, and like the narrative changes because that was right at the end of the game. So the narrative's completely different if that goes in. We're probably not even doing this podcast, but crucially, it didn't go in, and the stats now show it's more points dropped, and as you said, 14 goals. So I was talking to a friend of mine after the game who listens to these podcasts too, so he's going to agree with everything I'm saying about this. It's just that the year they got relegated, they finished level on points with Suwon FC, but they went down because they didn't score enough goals. Suwon FC scored more goals. The following season in K-League 2, they missed out on the playoff spots despite having the same number of points. I think it was the Jeonnam Dragons ahead of them because they hadn't scored as many goals as the teams who finished above them. And now this season, 14 goals in 11 matches. And I don't want to reel this off again, but here we go. It's Paju away, it's Yongin away, it's Gimhae away, it's Gyeongnam away. It's Cheongju who haven't won a game all season, and you're struggling to score goals in these matches. It's really damaging. And Stanislav Ilichenko hasn't scored a league goal since before Halloween. It's a major, major problem. Gimcheon was on the bench yesterday. He replaced him. Gimcheon is probably a better striker now at this point in his career. But again, he's only scored, I think, 2 goals all season. And like you said, the team. The last thing I want to mention then as well is the team. So Kim Jun-hong in goal, pretty good goalkeeper. Hong Jong-ho, centre-back, they signed from Jeonbuk over the winter. But it's that midfield, Bruno Silva, Kang Yeon-mok, Go Sung-bam, and Jong Ho-yan. Those 2 central midfielders are both Korean internationals. But it just feels like it's the same player over and over again. And there was a really noticeable moment at the end of the game where, just say it was Hong Jung-ho or Go Jong-yeon, one of the defenders would have the ball, and maybe one of the fullbacks, and everybody's pleading with him, boot it long ball stuff. That's what the Suwon Bluewings have been reduced to now. Long ball up. And of course they don't do it. They pass sideways, they pass backwards, ever. But then a different player has the ball, a player who is protesting that his teammate wasn't whacking the ball long a minute ago, has possession, and everybody's telling him, you got to go along with it. And he doesn't go along with it either. And none of them seem to know what to do. And they're all giving out to each other because they weren't doing what they thought they should have done. But then that person had the ball. They weren't doing it either. It was a mess. It was a mess. So yeah, I got to say, deeply worried about it. Like, Lee Jung-hyo looked really miserable at the end of the game. He was kicking the turf. I thought that was pretty funny. I was watching him a little bit in the first half. He was really animated on the sideline. But like, he's obviously signed on for this. Like, it's not like he's rolled into a club that's got used to success in the last dozen years, let's say. Like, he knows exactly where the problems are, but at the moment, not even he's able to fix the problems.
Well, there's also a little bit of irony that last season Suwon scored 76 goals. They outscored everybody in the league. They scored 10 more goals than Incheon United. It's just last year they conceded too many.
Yeah. They can't get around. It's like that whole saying, if like you block off, you fix one problem and then three other problems open up. But I think the biggest issue is just how boring it is. Like, it's not fun. It's really not fun. And they were singing that song at the end, we want to see a goal. And they could be singing that song now for half a dozen years, basically, with the exception of last season, but they weren't winning enough games last season either. So yeah, I think the fans are getting tired, and they're playing China and City next, or having a decent season. At this point, I don't even think you're looking for a performance. I think they're looking for results. That means people are going to get more angry because the football is dire. It's absolutely dire to watch. But they need results. They can't. There's no point playing well and not winning anymore. Like, they now have to put a gap between them and Seoul Land. I think it's going to be a very long season, and I'm not convinced it won't end in tears. It's double negative.
I mean, the other worrying thing is it really is like make or break this year, because if Bluewings don't go up this year, then we don't really know what the promotion situation will be next year. But it won't be 4 teams, it won't be 3 teams next year. It might be 1 in a playoff, or it might be 2 in a playoff at best. But we don't really know what the plan is for the 14-team K-League 1 yet. But I mean, if Suwon went into the playoff system this year and they had to face, I mean, even Gwangju or Bucheon, as it looks at the minute, would you back them against Gwangju or Bucheon?
No, I wouldn't. And like, for the K-League United website last year, I had them to beat Jeju, but this sounds like very much after the fact speaking, but I felt like I had to do that. I felt like I had to say that they're going to win those 2-leggers, but there was no part of me was convinced that they had the tools to go and do it. So even though Gwangju are awful and Gwangju concede loads of goals, no, I wouldn't have any confidence in them beating any teams in K-League 1. And yet they have a squad and a manager that's probably just below mid-table, but can't score goals, conceding too many goals in the really big games that they're playing. There were 18,000. You mentioned the tennis around. There were 18,693 at the game. A shout out to Daegu, because you don't see away crowds like that at K-League 2 matches this season, unless it's the Bluewings as the away team. I mean, obviously last season Incheon were doing it, and Bucheon and Songnam were both bringing decent crowds to Big Bird last season. But there's no doubt that crowd that I saw, that Daegu crowd, most of that away section was sold out. It wasn't fully sold out, but there were at least 3 blocks were entirely full. You don't see that, and they're not having a good season. So imagine if they were having a good season, they probably would have sold that out. But they must. I mean, they applauded the team off the end. Like, they must be equally disappointed with how their season is going. But yeah, it's Suwon are second. There's loads of time to turn it around, but you're kind of scratching around for where is your solution. I don't see where there is one, because I don't see where the goals are going to come from, and this is a huge issue.
Do you think they're going to be dipping into the transfer market in the summer and bringing in a striker?
Do you think
they're going to try and offload Stan?
I'd say, yeah. I mean, his contract's up at the end of the season, and there was rumours last winter that he was going to leave. I think they're not going to get an offer for him. Certainly, like, it's a free transfer, but it's whether or not he wants to walk away from his final year deal. I don't know how much he's making, but it might be more money than he expect to get somewhere else at this stage of his career. But yeah, I think it's time to move on. And Gimcheon has been a disappointment too. And I know Festian is injured and Rice is basically carrying the team, but it'd be nice if somebody else could step up and score some goals too. Like it shouldn't all fall on Ilichenko, but yeah, October is a long time. It's 9 games this season. 9 league appearances this season, no goals, and then the entire end of last season. So yeah, it's not great. I mean, our optimism levels for the season are at completely different points, which is interesting. And the way K-League works, we could sit around here in 3 weeks' time and we're talking about something entirely different, but I don't think so.
Yeah, I think the next 4 games that Bluewings have are going to basically make or break the season. I think in 4 weeks, as we go into the World Cup break in K-League 2, I think we'll know then whether Bluewings are likely to be challenging for top 2, for promotion, for first place, or whether they're looking at another year of playoffs.
But last thing I'll say in this, it's not really about the Bluewings. It's more about Busan. I know you're saying that, like, as we're recording this, Busan are leading against Cheonan City, isn't it? And they'll probably go on to win the game. But even if they don't, I don't see Busan winning the league. So then, because I just don't see how they. I think what they're doing at the moment is exceptional with the squad that they have. I mean, they missed out in the playoffs last season. But so you're thinking, oh, well, that they fall away, then that means surely the Bluewings are going to win the title. But I don't think so either. So that means that somebody behind. I still think it's going to be Seoul Eland, even though they're wildly inconsistent. Because if they look like the team that if they can turn it on, they'll probably go on enough of a run to go. That's my. I'm thinking now is that Eland will probably win the championship, and the Bluewings are fighting it out with Busan or Suwon FC, then for second spot.
Okay, in that case, along the same lines, if it's not Busan or Suwon Bluewings, I think it could be Suwon FC.
Oh, Suwon FC, okay, yeah. So it's tight. So you're saying, there's not a season, even though there's more teams going up. It's getting harder. Every year gets harder. They can't afford to be messing around in K-League 2. It's already been 3 seasons. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I didn't expect Incheon to be doing. I mean, I think Incheon are doing pretty well for where they are this year. Like, it was always going to be a year of consolidating in K-League 1, and it's because everybody is so inconsistent, similar to K-League 2. Everybody wins and then loses. I mean, top of the table, Seoul have got 2 defeats in their last 5. Ulsan have got 2 defeats in their last 5. Nobody has 5 games undefeated. Everybody's got at least 1 or 2 defeats. It's like, so there's inconsistency everywhere. I mean, it makes for an exciting league, but it's hard to judge what comes next. Okay.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, it's one of the reasons it makes the like doing these, especially the weekend that was, because we're going into the weekend thinking, well, I think Jeonbuk will lose to Jeju. Doesn't work out that way, but then Jeju just beat FC Seoul instead, who are top of the table. So it's wonderful. But yeah, stay tuned to Below the 38. We'll have podcasts up next week. Mike will still be away. Luke and I will be here, and our website. I'll put a link to our website in the description for this video. At the moment, we're focusing really heavily on match guides. If you're going to a K-League stadium for the first time, check out the stadium guide section on our homepage. We might have the information that you are looking for your first ever trip to a K-League 1 or a K-League 2 stadium. Luke, thank you so much. Enjoy your Sunday evening.
Thank you. And I'll catch you tomorrow, no doubt.
Take it easy. Goodbye.
Bye.